What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. We are here yet again, fleshing out more of what's been trending over the last few days with the C2E2. Now, I do want to say this. I understand that, like, a lot of people are like, come on, we keep beating our head against the same wall over and over again. Let's move on from it. But I don't want to just keep repeating myself. Obviously, we have new things coming out from CGC, and that's going to be the focus of what we're talking about today. So it is new perspective on what's going on. But anytime you hear me talking about the C2E2 Black Flag stuff from here moving forward, I don't want it to be the same repetitive stuff. And I want to make sure that we are, you know, addressing it in a manner that allows us to move forward from this and evolve as a community, as an industry. And I really do believe everything that happened and there's layers to it, because there's the business practice of Black Flag, there's CGC and Marvel's involvement, there's obviously all the attack and controversy on influencers and whatnot sellers and all that. There's so many layers of conversations that I do believe need to be had in a productive way that can actually evolve this community and this hobby and this industry for the better. I do believe that. So we're going to take a little bit of time, as always, to let some more folks jump in before we start actually diving into the topic of discussion. We do have the statement released today from CGC themselves. Now, if you didn't know, they did release a very quick, short, to the point statement. I believe it was 2 days ago when they said, we know what we did. We stand behind it. Well, today we have more context. So again, guys, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, I would truly, humbly appreciate it if you took the time to do so. I make content. I've been making content every day of the week. I've been trying to give myself a couple of days off here and there now, but I make content about anything and everything comics and comic book related. So I'm also on Instagram, journos_comics. You can find me there. There's a whole bunch of links in the description below. What's going on, Moonchild? Thanks for stopping in today. So again, we'll probably take 2 more minutes before we add the discussion and pull up the statement from CGC, Sinfully Good. That's a good name. Sinfully Good Comics. What's going on? But again, I know it's been a crazy week, folks. It really has. Comic Fool. And again, I want to, I know I did an initial video on this a couple days ago, and I got very animated, and there was a lot of emotion involved. I'm going to do my best to have this be a very, this doesn't need to be a high energy discussion today. I want it to be more laid back, but of course, I want to welcome everyone's perspective. I may challenge your perspective. We may disagree, but that's okay. If we were all here being yes men, yes women, we would never get anywhere. We would never solve anything. So let's bring up, valid points from all angles and all sides. Let's do it respectfully. Let's get passionate about it, but let's not, name call or do any silly stuff like that here today. Right? Live loot, what is going on? 1 more minute, guys, and we're going to bring up the most recent statement issued today by CGC. 1 more minute. Let a few more folks get in here. Simon. Happy to see you here, Simon. What's going on? Lee. That it is the business comic community that is ruining the hobby. Okay, Lee. I welcome your comment. Please don't take this the wrong way, but I always encourage people to be very careful of the language that we use. First off, the business isn't ruining comic books, because if business was ruining comic books, there would be no comic books. But when we say ruining comic books, nothing's ruining comic books, because comic books are alive and strong. Are there issues that are detrimental to comic books? Yes. Do some business practices add to that? Yes. So Lee, I think we probably agree on what you're getting at, like the root of what you're trying to say. But it's such a generalization to sit here and say business is ruining comic books. Those two words, business and ruining. So I appreciate your comment. And that's what we're going to try to do today. I'm going to try to weave through like your guys' statements, because I think a lot of times we tend to generalize and overgeneralize and simplify this stuff. It's not black and white, folks. And there's two sides to every coin, right? So remember that as well. MA3, Niatu, what's going on? What's going on? Right, Lee. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think we take that statement and we have to flesh it out, and we have to pinpoint the more specific things that you're probably like really, are rooted in where you're coming from. Hulk 197, what's going on? Unbreakable. The comic book hobby is many things, Unbreakable. It is many things. It's the stories, it's the art, it's the collecting, it's the investing, it's the trading, it's the nostalgia. It's so many things, right? So many things. Comic books and comic book vendors have been married forever. Indeed, indeed. I saw CGC statement and it still doesn't give a valid answer to why it's got a blue label instead of a green or purple one. With that, Sinfully Good, thank you for that comment. We are going to pull up CGC's statement. Jayco, what's going on? Yeah, it's all right. We're going to bring it up, guys. We're going to bring it up. All right, here we go. Now, we're going to read this together. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but I'm going to read it, okay? Here we go, everyone. This is CGC's. Again, I want to reiterate. Remember, they made a statement, I believe 2 days ago, very sweet and short to the point, stating that we know what we did. We stand behind it, right? Here is today's official in-depth. I guess it's in-depth. It's not even that in-depth. I would have liked, a couple of more fleshed out paragraphs, but it's more than what we got a couple days ago. Here we go. We, being CGC, apologize for the short response yesterday and wanted to follow up with an explanation of our thought process behind the grade assignments. We treated them as we would any other variant cover that is attached with an extra set of staples after the book was printed. And at times, these books included the original cover as well. There is a precedent for acetate covers being attached to a printed book and then graded by CGC. Well, this is true. I mean, acetate covers have been around since the 90s, right? But I'm continuing on. They go on to say, an example is Stray Dogs #1 from last year. An acetate variant cover was attached with an extra set of staples, to which CGC assigned a universal grade and a notation of acetate cover on that label. The extra set of staples were part of the manufacturing process of attaching the acetate cover and not considered a defect. Okay. This is where I'm going to need the help of the community here, of you guys. Let me just see. I'm going to look at the comments real quick. Jess, what's going on? Mojo. Mojo says CGC gives a great statement. I don't know about that, Mojo. I don't think this is a great statement, but we're going to dive into that. Michael, I'm going to go acetate my ASM #1 to a 10.0. Hold my beer. Okay, guys, here's the thing. Does anybody, so, okay, they're saying that there's precedent with acetate covers being a part. I know I have some examples and I should have brought them up. CGC is saying there's precedent of acetate covers being added to a book with the original cover still attached. This is a fact. But the majority or all of them that I've seen or that I'm aware of, do not have added staples. Why? The reason why is because the manufacturing process actually included the acetate and the original cover. I'm going to give you all a couple examples. And I have, oh, look, I think I have an example right here. I have an example right here. Let's pull this open. Okay, so this isn't necessary. This isn't an acetate, guys, right? This is a lenticular, but similar idea here, and I'm going to explain why. These are the lenticular variants that Marvel produced 5 years ago now, back in 2017, right? They have, this is a Falcon issue, and there's, if you guys could see that, and then it lenticulates to the Iron Man, the Bronze Age Iron Man issue. So what they did, though, they didn't create a brand new cover, a brand new variant cover. A book always has one cover, front, back cover sheet, right? They didn't just change the cover to a variant cover. They added it to the original cover still being there. And they did it on the same two staples. There is no extra staples in these books. And why is that? Because the manufacturer, Marvel, manufactured these books. And this is very important. Josh, what's going on, Josh? Chad, what's going on, Chad? Bleeker, Steven, saying what's up to some folks. Comet News Network. Okay, now, I don't have an actual acetate example, but I use this as an example because it's the same thing. I know I have a DC acetate from the 90s, a Superman one, and it's the same thing. There's no extra staples added because the acetate was added in the manufacturing process by the publisher, by DC. So I'm gonna ask the chat here. We got a good amount of people here. If anybody knows this, and Live Loot, you just said it, and we're gonna get to that. Absolutely. Anybody in the chat now? What CGC said about precedent was fact, and I just clarified that. But in that precedent, I know no knowledge of staples ever being added because simply they're using the same staples in the original manufacturing process by the manufacturer themselves. They proceed to state an example is, let me pull it up again. What their example was Stray Dogs #1 from last year. An acetate cover was added with extra set of staples. So my question to the community, to everyone here right now, is anybody aware of the Stray Dogs #1 variant that they're talking about? And are you guys aware of it? Are you aware there being 4 staples? And do you know if this comic book variant with 4 staples, the Stray Dog #1, if it was actually manufactured by the publisher, or if it was manufactured by a third-party retailer that ordered the exclusive variant? Does anybody know any details on this? I'm going to let you guys respond here. Let's see what we got. Second Premier says, Clayton Crane pushed the stapling process through a legit company. They are gonna get off scot. Okay, Second Premier, are you talking about the UF4? I'm assuming you're talking about the UF4 acetate variant from C2E2. Please provide context. Jason says extra staples not applied to the manufacturer equals not getting a blue label. Hey, we're gonna come back to that. Okay, Big Black Hammer. Stray Dogs was put out by Image, distributed by Diamond. has its own barcode and is a $12.99 cover price. It's legit. Okay, so Big Black Hammer. Big Black Hammer. This acetate variant wasn't like an exclusive store variant or an exclusive retailer variant. It was an acetate variant that was still put out by Image and distributed by Diamond. Yeah, is that correct? Let me get a correct, or if it's not, if my statement wasn't fully correct, please add context. Yes. Yes. Black Hammer says yes. Okay. So already right there, this creates a huge hole. Pokes a huge hole. Pun intended here. We're poking holes. This pokes a huge hole in CGC's argument. Okay? CGC is using precedent that is a completely different stipulated situation. Why is this? Let's compare, guys. Let's compare. This is what we know, and we're assuming to be fact, but I'm going to be very careful with the way that I use the word fact because we are taking third-party accounts. I do not have an official statement from Marvel, so I can't declare this as fact, but we do have multiple accounts and statements from those close to Marvel that can confirm this, although I cannot confirm it to be fact. But Marvel didn't apply the staples to the UF4 Clayton Crane Black Flag C2E2 comic book. I don't care if Clayton Crane handled it and they went to a legit manufacturer, if they went to a third-party manufacturing company. It doesn't matter. Marvel is the publisher of that UF4 facsimile, even as an exclusive variant. So, for those that don't know, we'll break it down. Black Flag goes to Marvel, says, we want to get a store exclusive. Clayton Crane is our artist. You have to order $3,000 minimum. You put that order through Marvel. Marvel used their third party. I believe it's Diamond still. I don't know for sure, but Marvel uses their third party distributing company to then distribute those comics. Those, after them, they manufacture them themselves. Marvel does. They are now distributed by Diamond or whoever that third party is, and they are sent out to Black Flag as a retailer, and Black Flag retails them and sells them. Now, 6 to 8 months later, Black Flag still has some of those comic books. They say, we want to throw an acetate sheet on top of this book. And I'm assuming maybe so. Clayton Crane is involved, and they go out and find a third-party manufacturing company. Obviously, they're not sitting there opening every book and hammering in staples themselves. So it was done professionally, I suppose. And then shipped back out to the retailer, Black Flag. And then now they're selling them and sending some out to CGC to get graded. So, the Stray Dogs #1, for taking in all the facts of the situation. The Stray Dogs #1 was still, even though there was added staples, it was manufactured at the point of production by Image. Not some third-party company doing it later on. You cannot use the Stray Dogs #1 as an example, CGC. It is completely different because from what we know, Marvel had no involvement, let alone if they were okay with it or not. They had no involvement in Black Flag adding the acetate covers to these books with 2 extra staples. Emmanuel, CGC put wrong labels on some of them. Some of the Stray Dogs. The blue label, of the acetate cover is exactly the same as the blue label of the original Ultimate Fallout 4 facsimile, the only thing they added is acetate cover. That's it. They have the same publication date, 11/2021. So they're not recognizing it as a new book. CGC is not recognizing it as a new book at all. So this is what I'm taking from this statement. They're not producing an argument. They are still not producing an argument. Now, the issues that this poses is this. Oh, well, like somebody said, well, Crane was involved and they went and found a professional manufacturer to add covers to this book. Okay, so say I owned 30 copies of Warlock and the Infinity Watch #1, which I'm almost at 30. I'm almost at 30, and we're not even talking about grade here. We're not even talking about 9.9 and 10.0s. We're talking about blue label. We're setting aside the grade. We're talking about blue label. I own close to 30 issues of Infinity Warlock #1. I own about 70 issues of Battlestar Galactica #1. We can use either of those as an example. Say I go and I find a professional manufacturer, right? And I pay them and I design, and I'm an artist, I'm a designer, I do graphic design. You know, say I reach out to Comic Clear. Comic Clear is a plastic manufacturer. And I don't know if they're able of doing this, but let's just say they are. Hey, Comic Clear, who is a legit company, can you produce 75 acetate sheets for me in this dimension? And then they produce I pay them, they produce those for me, and then I send them off to a print company. And I design this nice, professionally looking print. I mean, call it professional or not. I mean, I don't know if I could call what Black Flag did professional. It's kind of cheesy if you ask me. But anyways, I go and I send it to a professional print company, and I get this design printed on these, you know, nicely done, professionally made acetate sheets. And then I go and find a third-party manufacturing company. Maybe they're a paper manufacturing company. Maybe they're a magazine manufacturing company. Who knows? And I go to them and I say, hey, guys, I have 75 Battlestar Galactica #1s, and I have 75 acetate sheets with my own custom design on it. I want you guys to professionally add these acetate sheets to these comic books that I don't have licensing rights to. I don't have copyright or trademark rights to. I just own them because I bought them off the shelf. 75 copies. And they say, okay. And then I take those now and I have them all with my professionally produced acetate stapled in with 2 extra staples. And I send them to CGC as a Journos Comics exclusive. They're a Journos Comics exclusive. Why? Because I'm a business entity. I have a tax ID, just like Black Flag does. Journos Comics has a tax ID, just like Black Flag. I have W-2s and 1099s every year when I pay my taxes. Is Journos Comics and Pop Culture. Now I'm putting them up on my website, showing them up on my YouTube, and saying that these are the Battlestar Galactica #1 Journos Comics acetate exclusive variants. And I sent them to CGC, and maybe some of them come back a 7.0. Remember, I said grade doesn't matter. They come back a 7.0, 8.0, 8.5, whatever. But they all have a blue label. And they don't even mention staple added. They don't even mention anything, but it says acetate cover. And it still says Marvel Comics, whatever, 1979 or whenever it came out as the publication date. If Marvel is doing this for this Black Flag book, they need to do that for me. They need to do that for me. CGC, sorry, did I say Marvel? I meant CGC. If CGC is doing this for Black Flag, for doing what they did, do it for me when I go do that to my Battlestar Galactica #1s. Do it for me when I go do it to my stack of Infinity Gauntlet, a Warlock in the Infinity. Oh my God. Warlock and the Infinity Watch, number 1. Does anybody have an argument with that? Are these not exactly the same exact thing? Thanks, Josh. Brandon, what's going on, Brandon and Tony? Mark, what's going on, Mark? Buddy says CGC rules for not for me. Rules leave not for me. It's the whole Bad Idea comic that was just right. Yeah, the Bad Idea comic was like an acetate piece of sheet folded in a slab. Yeah, we're not gonna even get into that right now. Let's see what else we got. What else we got? I cannot believe that Black Flag would be willing to put the stain on their reputation for short-term profit. Lee, you bring up such a good point, and I'm not going to get too much into that today. That is something that I am definitely going to continue to talk about, and I'm still planning on having a conversation about it. D, what did you say here? Stray Dogs Acetate had 4 staples, but it had its own singular separate barcode, different from the Stray Dogs regular issue 1. The Black Flag book did not have this. So again, D, thank you so much for this context, because this shows again that this was a variant produced by the publisher themselves. CGC, you're not winning the argument, man. I mean, and look, I'm not sitting here, I'm not and I'm not yelling and screaming. I'm not coming at like CGC, man. You're not winning this argument. You're not. You're not. What you did in this situation goes against your own standards, and it's that simple. It's that simple. Steven. Maybe this is why CGC is doubling down, because they have already graded other upcoming bootlegs from Black Flag. Wow. Yeah. Yep. Now here's the thing. I'm going to play, I know this is playing devil's advocate, but I'm going to play to the side of CGC. Okay, CGC. You're telling me then that as long as anybody and their brother and mother, as long as anybody uses it, look, okay, we can still differentiate that CGC could probably notice when I take a stapler or maybe a little staple gun and I staple my own staples. Maybe they can still notice the difference between somebody doing that and somebody adding staples professionally through a third-party manufacturer, even though it's not the publishers. Maybe they can differentiate, right? But that means still, CGC, that as long as anybody, any Joe Blow, uses a professional, a professional company that can add staples to a book professionally, anybody can do it to any book published. You got to give it a blue label. If that's what you're saying, fine. Keep the blue labels on these books. Keep the blue labels on more upcoming Black Flag, Acetate, bootlegs, whatever you want to call them. But you better do it for me. You better do it for 300. You better do it for Steven. You better do it for Fizbin. Anybody. And I don't care if it's an AF-15. I don't care if it's Warlock and the Infinity Watch. Logan's Run, number 1. I don't care what it is. You need to give it that blue label. That's the only way this will be fair. But we know darn well that ain't going to happen. Can Marvel sue, Mike says. Hey, Comic Clear is here. Oh, Comic Clear. Get to 50K followers and we can talk, Journo. I only do shady deals with influencers. Oh, man. Okay. Maybe one day. I got my hopes up. So, what was I saying? What was I saying? Can Marvel sue? Yeah. Who said it? Mike. Can Marvel sue? Marvel's not gonna sue. Like, and I don't. If I was Marvel, I wouldn't. It would cost them more money. It would cost Marvel more money to pursue any type of legal action, even if they won. It's not worth it. Now, what they could do is they can cut all ties in licensing agreements with Black Flag. I talked about this. I don't know. I was on Sands' show last night. Big shout out to Sands for having me on last night with a great panel. Like, if I was Marvel, I could absolutely say, look, either, you know, if they broke contract, because if Black Flag broke any type of contract agreement with Marvel, it could be a problem. And if I was Marvel, I would say either, you know, we are not doing any contractual agreements with you at all anymore, or I would have a conversation with them and I would sit down and clearly state that you guys breached contract, and if we are going to continue to do business together, you know, and you know what they can do moving forward, they can even add a clause in any future contracts to really claim damages if they breach it again, you know, and that could be something worthwhile for Marvel to do. But suing for something like this isn't gonna that's not gonna benefit Marvel at all. It's just gonna be a big headache, a waste of money, and just a crap show. CGC is authenticating comics modified by resellers. I mean, we don't even need to call them resellers. They're authenticating comics modified by random people. It doesn't matter if you're a retailer, a reseller, an influencer, a flipper, a collector. It's a random person. And I don't care if a random person went and spent the money to get it done at a professional place. It doesn't matter. It's not the same thing to what CGC is saying in this statement at all. CGC just keeps digging themselves a deeper hole. I mean, it seems that way. And look, I'm not a hater. I want all these to succeed, but yeah, CGC does one thing that I can champion, then they do something else that's like, oh my goodness, and then they do something else. And CGC, man, you got to get it together. And I know we make mistakes, but this isn't owning up to it, in my humble opinion. And like, I forgot who it said, Steven or somebody said, like, could it be, I mean, are they really like looking at the fact that they got more coming down the pipe? I mean, did Boston Con happen yet? I don't think it did yet, right? Because Jason with Black Flag already admitted that they're gonna have more of these acetate added type stuff there. So yeah, it's crazy, guys. And again, we're speaking specifically to CGC's involvement. Today, we're not really diving too far into Black Flag and how they handle this situation. We're not getting into the whole influencer thing. You guys know, I'm gonna repeat it real quick. All I'm telling you guys again to do is if you want to hold people accountable, there's a way to do it. Be respectful. Try to have conversations, and stop just pointing fingers at people just because somebody has a following or somebody has a big name. I knew this was going to happen. So as we continue this conversation, because I do feel that this is such a layered incident that involves so many aspects of this hobby. It involves retailers, exclusive dealers. It involves publishers. It involves the grading companies, CGC. It involves influencers, whatnot sellers, YouTubers. And then, of course, collectors are at the heart of all of this. But we have to continue we have to be grown-ass men and women. Stop being online bullies and cynics and narcissists. Stop jumping to conclusions and being reactionary and emotionally reactionary. And you got to have the conversation. We're all human beings at the end of the day. Give people the opportunity to talk about this. Let's all learn from this, right? And that's why I'm even approaching this right now with CGC. I'm not like, oh, death to CGC. No, it's like, CGC, this is not, it's not. And I'm stating this not only as a collector, as a fan, as a YouTuber, I'm stating this as a businessman. I'm stating this as a businessman who feels that I can look at this from a perspective, understanding, truly understanding business precedent, understanding, looking at all the insides and outs of the PR situation in this case, how they're handling the situation, and how the actual manufacturing process and their excuses of why I should have a blue label are still not adding up. Simple and plain. Simple and plain. Yeah, for the price, go ahead and buy a UF4. I mean, seriously, I mean, you could buy a UF4 second print near mint for as much as this selling. You could buy a lower grade first print. You could probably find like a, I don't know, a very fine minus copy for raw, maybe even higher. It's crazy. It's just nuts. Thank you. The positive feedback there. Swaggles, another, just some great insight on this whole thing. It's going to depend on the language of how Marvel out with retailers. Do retailers have creator ownership in the process? If they do, then maybe CGC is right. Okay, Swaggle, this is absolutely a great statement. Because you're right. You're absolutely right. If there is a release within anything that's contractually binding about creator ownership in the contract, it has to be in the contract. So again, it can't be any random book. It has to mean when Black Flag signed the contract to do this original Clayton Crane exclusive variant. When they signed that contract, what Swaggle is that contract, there has to be something detailed pertaining to creator ownership of whatever the process is for getting this done. And it has to stipulate that. So, Swag, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that right there would give more reason for Marvel to actually jump into this conversation and for them to make a statement themselves. Now, I have thought about doing my own exclusive variants. I would like to do one that's actually me as an artist too. Like if I did something like this, like which, you know, I took a blank cover and and I do my own art on it. And then maybe I get like a colorist because I don't do color. I mean, and then it's a Journos Comics exclusive because I do the same thing. I get the 3K minimum print run, but I'm the actual artist on it too. That would be so dope. I want to do that one day. I'm not there yet, but I would have to do that and read it myself in order to see exactly what's going on. So I don't know if there's anybody out there in this community. You know, I know Tom does a ton of exclusives. Mill Geek does exclusives. And since, you know, their names were like thrown in the mix of this, it would be interesting to see if they would. And I know this doesn't even pertain to Black Flag and this whole controversy of influencers being able to pre-sell or buying a bunch of copies or whatever. But it'd be interesting to see somebody that has a platform that has worked with Marvel before come out and talk about those details that are outlined in these contracts. And if they feel there is something that's actually stipulated in the contract that says once a retailer or an entity has ownership over an exclusive variant, they can alter that book without it being declared a defect. But then where does the line stop? Is it in the contract that says You as Black Flag, or you as the retailer that's, you know, signing this contract, you are stipulated this much amount of, like, where does creator ownership start and stop? How much can you change the product? Well, could Black Flag have thrown some stickers on it? Could they have, like, designed their own stickers, thrown a sticker on it, and called it an exclusive? Like, where does it end? So again, I understand we're talking about creator ownership here, and maybe there is something stipulated there, but to what, can they rip the cover off? Can they rip the cover off and it still get a blue label? Because it's like coverless variant, you know, Black Flag exclusive coverless variant. Can they rip? Can they take the book to a professional manufacturer and have that manufacturer actually remove the original staples in the original cover and add a new cover with new staples? Where is the line drawn? And because of these questions, it makes me feel like even if there's creator ownership detailed in the contract, I don't think there's anything that would be viable enough to actually stipulate the details of it. And then we get into like Supreme Court type laws where, you know, it's you know, when we look at documents like the Bill of Rights in the Constitution and our constitutional rights, how they're a living document and it's stating as such, and it's interpretation and the way we judge. I mean, you look at, not to get into controversial issues, but you look at Roe v. Wade and why it was overturned, whether you agree with it or not. The reason why it was instated in the first place back in the 70s, and the reason why it was overturned is because these laws are written, our Constitution and our amendments were written in a way, is, you want to say grading is subjective. Our constitutional rights are subjective. And it all depends on those few people sitting up there in those black robes on how they want to interpret the document. And it could change. And it could change with precedent. There could be something that happened before that evolves the context of the law. So it's crazy, guys. It's crazy. Marvel issuing a statement, though, would be absolutely great for this situation. Glenn says, I don't think Marvel could push back on this. What they did was take a comic they were authorized to sell, staple some plots to it, and then sell it. There's no Marvel. Glenn, I think I just spoke to that. First off, Glenn, you and I, we don't know the contract. We do not know the details outlined in that contract. So we can't say that. To say there's no Marvel trademarks on it, I think is inaccurate, because the book, it's licensing at heart. At root, it's a licensing. You are licensing them to use a trademarked image, a trademarked publication, etc., etc. So trademark and copyrights are absolutely apparent or involved here. Now, they authorize them to sell the comic book. They authorize them to sell the comic book as a retailer. That doesn't mean they authorize them to add staples to it, throw plastic on it, rip something off of it, color on it, doodle on it, throw some stickers on it, anything like that. So that's just my take. But the bottom line, we both need to read the contract to really know. I just want to bring up really quick, Eric saying it's a flipper's market. This book is going to sell regardless. To be honest, Eric, this isn't a knock at you, but I'm so tired of the future tripping on, well, there's nothing we could do about it. And I get it, Eric. I mean, you're right. Right now, it's selling regardless. But we need to stop saying these things. We need to stop saying it and putting it out there, Eric. Like, as long as we keep saying, like, CGC is the leading grading company, CGC is always going to get more money on the secondary market. If we keep saying it's going to keep being true. You keep saying that these types of books are going to sell regardless. Nothing's going to change. So let's change our vocabulary. Words are powerful. Words are very powerful. We have the ability to influence. We have the ability to really alter our reality of the world around us and for ourselves. So I encourage you, Eric, to let's try to have a different perspective. Instead of just saying it's going to do this regardless, nothing's going to change, let's talk about how we can change it. And that's what we're doing here today. So, and when it's funny because you say it's a flippers market, and I get that, and I get what you're saying, and I agree. But let's say this. Instead of calling out the flippers, and I don't mean calling out like in a bad way necessarily, but let's call out the buyers. And I don't mean the flippers that went and stood in line for hours, getting multiple copies, flipping them on eBay. Let's call out the collectors or the people that are buying these books for $200, $300, $400 right now. And again, when I say call them out, I don't mean saying, you guys aren't even real collectors. You guys are ruining the hobby. Like, don't do that. Don't say that. Say, guys, people that are buying these books and spending these books for $400, like, what are you doing and why? Educate them to what's going on and have a conversation. And that can hopefully change things. Again, I had a great stream last night on Sands' channel. Great panel. And I brought up a bit of a metaphor that I'll say here again, because we think that this industry is never going to change. You know, we think that all these things happen and everyone gets all, outraged over it. We make memes, we hop on social media, we yell and scream at social media. Influencers come out and make videos, but then the next week we're doing it all over again. Nothing's ever going to change. Well, stop thinking like that and think like this. And this is what I used last night, and I'll say it again here. Every time I go to a stream of water, and I love water, I love being out in nature. I was just out of town and by a creek, taking a hike. And I always walk up to a river, a creek, and I find a stone that's already in the water. And I pick it up. And it's usually a good sized one. I like to find a stone that you actually, it's out of, a little bit of it's out of the water and you can see the water running around it. I will pick that stone up and I will watch the water now shift its direction and fill in where that stone was. And then I take the stone and I set it or toss it somewhere else. And I then watch how that flow of water right there is now altered and changed by the stone being in its way. And then I sit and I think about it and I walk away and I think about that image and think about 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when I'm dead and gone, 1,000 years from now. I have forever changed the flow of that stream. Forever. Ever. Now, is it going to flood the stream? Is it going to dam the stream? Is anybody else going to notice the change? Probably not ever. But if each one of us went down to that stream and started moving our own stone or throwing our own pebbles into that stream, do you think one by one it's going to really start taking a different shape that will be noticeable? Absolutely. It takes one pebble to be thrown in the stream to change its flow forever. And that's all we can do, guys. I'm one pebble. You're one pebble. We're all one pebble. But let's be one pebble together in a sea or a stream of many pebbles. All right? And let's change the way we talk about these things. Let's change the way we sit with these things, and let's have conversations. So that's what I said in the beginning of my stream today. I said, yep, I'm sure everybody's tired about talking about C2E2 drama, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to talk about it like that. I'm going to talk about it to where we're actually having a conversation. And I want you guys to do the same. And you guys are so far. You're bringing great stuff to the table. Great insight to the table here. Just going to look through some comments here. Chef RD. Where's the integrity? Integrity is something to talk about across the board in this industry. Absolutely. Absolutely. RV. Dana's hanging out. Fizbin. Outrageous in my honest opinion. Buddy, if you're talking about Disney going after Black Flag again, it's they are not going to waste their resources and their money, time and money on doing anything it's not worth it. Sinfully good, maybe they could do a cease and desist. That'd be something else again. That'd be like, it's not. I guarantee you guys, this isn't even on their radar. This isn't even on Marvel's radar, let alone Disney. But I mean, let's keep talking about it. Let's put it on their radar. Let's keep talking about it. Steven, I agree. Disney suing Black Flag is like an elephant going after an ant. I absolutely agree 100%. Bleaker, Disney can put them out of business with a snap of a finger, just like an elephant can stomp on an ant really quick, but to pursue something like that is not going to happen. Mega Road, why would Marvel care either way what people do to their books? They would care if it affects their bottom line, period. Marvel would care what people do to their books if it affects their bottom line. So if we get a big enough hype around this to where this starts becoming a domino effect and a chain reaction of holding multiple retailers accountable, and it gets in the way of the exclusive variant, and when you have dozens and hundreds of these retail exclusive, these exclusive variants, store exclusives, retail exclusives, the KRSs, the unknown, the Black Flags, and all that, the Mike Mayhews. If all of them, if we start holding them all accountable, then Marvel can jump in and set the tone and say, okay, we're going to make a public statement. This is what's outlined in these contracts. This is what we believe to be okay or not okay, and what we expect from those who we do business with. All right, let's see. Kevin, from my understanding, there are already 9.9s to 10s. Yes. All right. Yeah. For the Ghost Rider and another book. Okay, let's guys. We got one more piece to really dive into today. And that is the grade now, the actual grades of these books, not even the blue label. We're going to talk about the grades. Kevin just said here, I want to highlight this. Thank you, Kevin, for stating this. From my understanding, there are already 9.9 to 10s for the Ghost Rider that they said they were going to have at the at Boston Con. And another book Black Flag is doing already on the census. Okay. And again, those are both basically, they are incentive variants that they did originally, that Black Flag did, and now they're adding acetate covers to those as well, and they're going to sell them as Boston Con exclusives. Out of all of the ones that were sent into CGC from the UF4 acetates, to my knowledge, at least as of yesterday, there was nothing lower than a 9.8. There were no 9.6s. There were just a handful of 9.8s, a few 9.9s, and a 10. How often, especially with Marvel books in their flimsy covers and pages, how often is somebody going to send in 10 books that, okay, and maybe they were sent to a professional to get the acetate covers added? So now let's take away, somebody's adding defects because they're adding staples to it. Let's take all that away just for argument's sake here. Now, let's look at these 10 books. I believe it was 10. How many of us have sent 10 brand new books in and not only got all 9.8s, but got a handful of 9.9s and a 10.0? How many of us? How many people have sent multiple copies of brand new books, brand new Marvel books? How many of you have ever even gotten one 9.9 in one order? They've been sitting around since 2021, yes. They were sent to some other manufacturer to have some plastic added to it. So they were handled, they were put through a process. And yet, not one of them is a 9.6. I mean, I sent in multiple Chadwick Boseman image books, the Spawn 311s. I couldn't even get a 9.8. Got two 9.6s and they were brand new. And I even pressed them. And I got 9.6s. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. So I'm just asking a question. Yeah. Oh, man. And Comic Clear makes a great statement. Great statement. They graded the acetate, which is durable like those lenticular covers. Yes, absolutely. So again, that's a great statement because does it mean that they're hyper focused on the acetate and not the entirety of the comic book itself? And what do people always say? Don't just focus on the cover. You guys are silly because you're looking at this book. Oh, how did it get a 9.6? Well, maybe it had a little ding on one of the covers on the inside of the book. Absolutely. You're supposed to grade the whole book. Got to work on that pressing game. Actually, I pressed up a 4.5 Eternals number 2 and got a 9.2 on it. I took an Eternals 2 4.5 to a 9.2. Yeah, baby. Yep. Anyways. Now we have word that already some of the other acetates that they're doing already have 9.9s and 10.0. So that's another concern. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to push any conspiracies. I am so tired of conspiracy theories in this community. Just because somebody has a certain amount of followings, they're manipulating the market. Or just because somebody has a partnership with eBay, they're manipulating, it's just like, there's so much spread in this community on social media that is groupthink that just gets the telephone game and then everyone starts believing it without any fact. I'm not trying to sit here and say that CGC is purposefully doing anything. Oh, we're in cahoots with Black Flag, so we're going to give a bunch of 9.9s and 10.0s. I'm not saying that, but how can you not question what is going on? How can you at least not question how already we have an issue with them getting blue labels? How the hell are so many of them getting 9.9s and 10s? Prime time. What is going on? Wooden cover. So I don't know, guys. I don't have the truth. I don't have the facts. I don't know why this is happening with CGC, but I'm sorry, it seems fishy one way or the other. Either it's a quality control issue, like Comic Clear stated, like they're hyper focused on this nice, crisp piece of acetate that's now covering the book, and they're not actually doing their job right. Or could it be something else? And dare I even assume anything else? I don't know. But whatever it is, it doesn't sit well with this community. And I understand why. And again, I'm not telling you guys to go out and point fingers and blame everyone and create conspiracy theories and be counterproductive and reactive and toxic, because we need to do away with that. That's why, even for me, I'm doing my best to not even get so hyped up and hyphy today, guys. I'm trying to be cool, calm, and collect, because even though when I get all into it and I get loud and I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm not attacking anyone. That's me. Like, guys, like, I'm a musician. I'm a rapper, or at least in my past life, right? So when you get in the booth or on stage, it's like, when you start, even like, no matter what music you're doing, like, I don't care if you're, Nirvana or anything, like, unless you're like some calm folk music, maybe, but I mean, you're going to be blowing. And that's what I'm doing. It's like I'm on stage rapping with you guys. And that's why I get so animated and I may get loud and I'm like, nah. It's that passion. I give that to you guys. So, but I understand that sometimes that can be taken out of context. So I'm doing my best to still be animated and passionate while keeping it level, because I don't want you guys to take it the wrong way and think that, oh yes, let's pick up pitchforks and be toxic, right? Thanks, Josh. I'm just going to take note of a comment. I'm not even going to highlight it. Bill, what's going on, Bill? There's a comment, and I'm not going to call you out because I don't want to shame you. I appreciate you being here. There's going to be no name calling of anybody. That's why I said I'm not sitting here even accusing CGC of doing anything shady. I think what they're doing is wrong, right? I think what they're doing with the blue label is against their own standards, and them giving so many 9.9s and 10s to these books is bothering me, and it's questionable, but I don't have the facts and I can't blame them of anything. I don't want anybody trying to point a finger or call people names or make accusations against anybody in this chat today. That is counterproductive. I don't care if some of these people that you're naming, could learn from what's transpired over the last few days. And I think, if you got a problem with anybody, I don't care who you are, a collector, or nobody in this community, you're not somebody with a YouTube channel, you're just a normal person. And I don't mean to say nobody, just a normal person. Reach out to those people. If they don't respond, they don't respond. But I encourage you to do that at least. So again, I humbly ask you all to keep people's names out of your mouth if it's going to be nothing but accusations. Goes Junk. Phil, what's going on, Phil? Juggy! Squirmy and Grubs. Shouldn't the UF4 acetate graded comic book have green labels because they're modified with extra staples? Squirmy, thank you for the comment. I would highly recommend you going back on the replay. We addressed that in depth for the most of the show today. But that's pretty much the argument. Pretty much. Sprezzo, definitely questionable. Absolutely. And I think that's where we got it. And I want to say this to you folks. Look, I had so many people attack me over the last couple of days and unsubscribe and call me names and make a threat to my mother. Hey, boy, if you would have said that to me 20 years ago. Woo. Anyways, I'm not going to go there. I understand that people are frustrated by this whole thing. I understand that we want to find people to hold accountable. But again, there's a way of doing it. And when we just point fingers and we start calling names and we jump to conclusions, it does nothing to validate a real argument. It does nothing to validate a real argument. If you are a detective or a lawyer, if you're a lawyer, right, and you got somebody sitting on the stand, a defendant, and it's your job to prove them guilty. If you go up there and be like, they're a clown, they're not a real comic book collector, they're a clown, they're manipulating the market. Ah! Middle finger, I'm going to make a meme about them. They're ruining the comic industry, the comic hobby. I rest my case and you go sit back down. Are you going to win your case? Or they murdered this person. Well, where's the evidence? I don't need evidence. They murdered this person. They're guilty. Where's your evidence? So I just encourage you all again to remain calm, stay passionate, but don't be reactionary. Do your research and put on that lawyer hat. First, you got to play detective. Get your evidence. And the best evidence is reaching out to the sources, guys. Reach out to them. Try to have conversations. Stack up that evidence. Build yourself a case. And then I'll meet you and then meet them in the courtroom. And put on your lawyer hat. And through it all, we continue these conversations and we continue to try to have a productive change in this community. Bleecker Street. I'll address this real quick. We're going to start wrapping up soon here. The fact of facsimile went from 75 to 100 is outstanding. How is a kid supposed to become a comic collector these days? Really and actually. Bleecker, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. First off, how the book went from, I think it was originally 85, not 75. But how it went from 85 to 100 is disgusting, in my humble opinion. We're not going to get into that. Very unethical of how Black Flag handled saying, oh, well, these are going to be 100 now. Very unethical. But let me tell you something, Bleecker Street, and I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm sorry, but a kid wanting to become a comic book collector these days should have nothing to do with some random overpriced exclusive variant. You want to know how a kid becomes a comic book collector? They go into a comic book store. And yeah, they're not a quarter anymore or $1 anymore or even $2 anymore. They're $3.99. Some of them are $4.99. Whatever. Inflation. Guess what? They go into a comic book store and they buy a couple of books from superheroes that they love for $3.99. That's how. They go in the back issue bins. They go in the dollar bin, 50-cent bins, and they find some classic nostalgia, and they become a comic book collector. There is no reason to justify this being wrong because a kid can't afford it. I'm sorry. And Bleecker, I'm not, there's many, it's like, that would be like saying, well, how once a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old gets a driver's license, how is he going to be able to be a driver if he can't afford a Ferrari? He doesn't need to afford a Ferrari. He could go down to the used car shop and he could get a nice little used Honda Civic for a few $1,000s that he saved up working that fast food job while he was in high school. You see what I'm saying? There should be no kid that needs to be looking at this book right now, especially once it hits the secondary market. There's no reason. Now, you can say an example of maybe a kid can save up to get something like this. Fine. It's just like me. How am I going to enter high school and experience high school if I don't have the freshest kicks of Jordans? Because they're $200. You know what I did, guys? We were never, I had like Keds and, I may have had a pair of, LA Gears or something when I was a kid. But I had one pair of Jordans when I was a kid, and I saved up. I saved up. I was 16 years old, and I saved up to buy that pair of Jordans myself. So Bleecker, I don't, I just hope you understand what I'm saying. Like, look, I'm upset that cover price of comic books is $3.99 and $4.99. That's a better argument for me. How do kids afford into comic books anymore when a cover price for one book is freaking $4 gosh dang dollars? That to me is a better argument than saying, how is a kid going to be a collector because of something, an exclusive variant? Let the people that want to spend buku money on spend it. Let people that want to buy, Ferraris because, or a personal yacht, let them be on that stuff. All I need to enjoy the water is to have my little nice fishing boat. You see what I'm saying? So I hope that makes sense. BK's in LA gear. Yes, yes. Pop sequentialism. Where it gets potentially problematic is that the G in CGC stands for guarantee. By grading that bootleg cover, they have validated it and face repercussions for not validating in the next one. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know, 300. That's the questions. Oh, man. Painted pages. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so glad that, being here, part of this, though, is helping you out. I'm glad that you're there getting the treatment that you deserve. Keep me posted, okay? Keep me posted. Just rest. I've been through it, man. Fun, but stay positive. Sixth Element, I disagree. I 100% disagree. Now, I mean, where I kind of agree is that they charge whatever people are going to pay, but it's not adults versus kids. This idea that kids don't collect comic books anymore is a fallacy. When we generalize it like that, Sixth Element. Now, don't get me wrong. Is there as many people or as many kids collecting as there was? Maybe, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, that's an argument. You can argue that. But to say that they don't really buy comics anymore is too much of a generalization. I'm an educator. Well, I have two kids myself who are now teenagers, and they're still into comics. But of course, they had me to help guide that influence. You guys, I don't think you know the impact of what the MCU and these movies and these properties has done. A lot of people say, oh, well, they just watch the movies and they don't even read comics. That's not true. I'm an educator. Do you know how many people come in and look, maybe it's not a floppy all the time. Maybe it's a trade paperback, or maybe it's those Star Wars Jedi Academy books. I mean, it's evolved. These kids are into these characters. Maybe it's a superhero and friends, soft book, kind of a comic book. But these kids today, I'm seeing it more and more. They're bringing these books to school. They're reading them at lunchtime. They are into these characters. They are into comic books. It definitely looks differently than it did when we were kids. Not as many of them are actually going to the comic book shops. Yes. More people are into the trade paperbacks and the graphic novels. Yes. But that's evolution. But look, I truly believe more kids are into comic books today than, say, even 7 years ago. And I believe that truly with my heart. And I believe if I took the time to do it, I could quantify it. Absolutely. Right. And again, it's definitely different. But here's the thing. What did I say earlier in the stream? Oh, nothing's going to change. We keep saying nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. Kids don't collect comics. Well, what are we going to do about it? If we're parents and we have kids, get them involved. Even if we're aunt and uncles or we got young cousins, You know, that's why I have a nephew that lives many states away, halfway across the country. And over the last few years, I've sent him like Christmas or birthday packets of comic books. And I've always he's a big Black Panther fan. So I included like a new Black Panther book and like an original Kirby book from the 70s. But I try to give him I gave him some Image books, Marvel, DC, switch it up, and I get them involved. You get them involved. So we just got to keep getting them involved, keep bringing them to the movies, keep watching the TV shows, because it all connects, guys. It's all a part of the same comics that we love. Even if it's consumed a little bit differently these days, that's just life, and things change. Things don't stay the same, and we just have to understand that and embrace the change. We have to embrace the change while staying true to what came before us. And it's a balancing act, for sure. Planet AZ. Wow, nice. Vinny. Reef the Sea. Yeah. Richard, Costa's a killer. I don't know. There's a lot of good art and a lot of horrible art. It seems that there's not a lot of in between these days. It's either like really good or really bad. Same with stories. I think there's really good stories and then just really bad stories. It's like one or the other, at least from what I read. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, guys, we are going to wrap up today. So on the outro here, I got to actually bring my son to work. Well, he brings me because he's got his driver's permit now, so he drives me. Been getting a little car sick, but he's getting better. I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I really appreciate everyone being here again today, adding on to this conversation. I am going to have a roundtable discussion. There's two things that I want to talk about still in depth. One is Black Flag and what Black Flag's doing. And I'm not talking about CGC or Marvel. I'm going to talk about Black Flag and how they're handling business. We're going to talk about it. And I'm not going to do it to sit here and blackball Black Flag or to just throw them under the bus. I'm going to be real and honest. I don't want Black Flag as a company to not succeed and be successful. I want success for everyone. But I completely disagree with the way that they're running their business. And I believe it's highly unethical and it's not right. And then I also, let me hold on one sec. I'm going to finish my statement here before we go. Hold on. I also want to continue to discuss the whole influencer piece. And I think this has become almost not the most controversial of it, but the nastiest. The whole influencer piece has become the most nastiest part of this. And I am going to address this more in depth again. Because, guys, we can be frustrated and we can want to hold people accountable, but it's just disgusting. I've been at the brunt end of that over these last few days too. And it's disgusting. It's horrible. It's filth. We need to do better. So I'm going to be going out of town these next few days to celebrate a really big birthday. Very excited about that. I'll leave it up to your imagination on why it's a really big birthday. I won't give away the details. You guys can imagine. And I'm going to come back next week and I might do another just kind of random live like this during the week, but I'm really looking to get some folks together to do a roundtable discussion. And I don't want people that are just going to echo chamber each other in groupthink. I want people that are going to come here from both sides of this perspective. I really hope to have a diverse group sitting at the table talking about this, because it needs to be talked about in a productive manner. So, with that being said, everyone, thank you guys for being here. Again, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, I would truly be appreciative of you doing so. Like I said, I've been making content almost every single day, though I've been trying to give myself a couple of days off. My content is all over the place. I'm always active and involved with all of you guys and do my best to read all of my comments. I do my best. It's tough. But I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing here for you all. And yeah, so thank you guys. Be well, be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Keep up the good fight. Remember, be productive, not counterproductive. Until next time.